All right, so like I mentioned before, what we're looking at, didn't mean to erase that, is 14.2 and through 14.4. All three of those sections are factoring trinomials. So that's what we're looking at today. So remember, factoring is the undoing of your multiplication process. So if I had originally x plus 5 times x plus 2, I would distribute x. That would be x squared plus 2x. Distribute the 5. That would be 5x plus 10. Combine your like terms in the middle, and that will give me x squared plus 7x plus 10. So factoring is taking this trinomial down here and breaking it back down to these two sets of binomials. So that's what we'll do. We'll have a trinomial, and we'll break it down into two sets of parentheses, the two sets of binomials. All right. So I'm erasing some of this stuff, and so we can walk through it. All right. So there are certain things that are going to be the case no matter what is going on in your trinomials. And the first thing is that your signs are going to work out a certain way according to how they're already set up. So in other words, when I look at x squared plus 5x plus 6, I look at my back sign first. If it is positive, they're going to be the same. And then this one tells us which sign that's going to be. So that means both of our signs, I want green, should be positive. All right. So if the back sign is positive, that means your signs are going to be the same inside of your parentheses here. And then this first one tells you which sign to use. So looking at this one, our back sign is positive, so our signs are going to be the same. But since our first one is negative, it means both signs will be negative. All right. So before we go any further, make sure we're okay with that. You go to the back sign first. Sorry about that, I had to sneeze. So go to the back sign first. If it's positive, that means both of your signs in your parentheses will be the same. And then the first sign tells you which sign they will be. All right. So now, as far as filling in the rest of the parentheses or rest of our binomial, remember x times x is what gave me x squared. So that's what we're going first for both of them, x and x. That's how you get x squared. Now we need the factors of 6, two numbers that multiply to give you 6, but will add together to give you 5 in the middle, and that's going to be 2 and 3. All right. And remember, you always can multiply this back out to see if it'll give you what you originally had. So you always can check your factorization. So the same thought process in this second one right here, x squared minus 7x plus 12, x and x will be the first in each, because that's how you get x squared. Then you want the numbers that will the two numbers that will multiply together to give you 12, but add together to give you 7, because both of your signs are the same. And that will be 3 and 4. All right. So before we go to the next one, questions on anything that was said here? All right. So looking at the next two, so before both of our back signs were the same, this time we're looking at what will happen if our back signs are different. Well, if when it's positive, well, not back signs are different. Let me go back. So here we're looking at both of our back signs were positive. That's what I meant to say. Now here we're looking at what would happen if our back signs are minus. If they're minus, they're going to be different. Remember before, if our signs were positive, that means they were going to be the same. This time, if our minus sign in the back will let us know that they'll be different. And then this plus sign means that it would be the greater of the two. So I'm going to do plus and minus. Sign should be different. We already know both of these will be x. X times x will give me this x squared here. So now I need the factors of 6, two numbers that will multiply to give you 6, but will subtract from each other to give you 5. And that would be 1 and 6. They're subtracted from each other because our signs are different. So that would be 1 and 6, and then the greater of the two will take on a positive. So we'll do a positive 6 and a negative 1. All right. So the same thing happens here. Sign is different. So we should have plus and minus. I keep saying the sign is different. The sign is minus. So that means our sign should be different. So we'll do plus and minus. X and X. And then we want the factors of 12 that will subtract from each other to give us 4, and that'll be 6 and 2. Now the greater of the two has to take on the minus sign. So it'll be a minus 6 and a positive 2. All right. So before we do any more questions or anything that was said, so as far as these go, that will always be the case. You always go to your back sign. That will tell you whether your sign should be the same or different. And then your front sign will give you more information. All right. And here I'm just emphasizing the fact that if you multiply it back out, you will get what you originally had. And so that's what I did right here. So
Okay, I think I have a question.
Yep.
Can you explain why the last one, why is it add and subtract if it's both subtract?
It's all about this
X
back
squared
sign.
minus 4. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's all about this back sign. This back sign dictates whether they will be the same or different. So the only way you will get the same signs in your parentheses is if your back sign is positive. And so that's why both of them here were both minus sign, because our back sign was positive. Now, if your back sign is minus, that means both of your signs, they have to be different.
Okay.
All right. All right. Make sure we're good before we go to do some more. All right. So let me erase some of this. I guess I can leave it. All right, so here we have x squared minus 12x plus 35. All right. So once again, we go to look at our back sign first. And we see that our back sign is positive. That means that our symbols in our parentheses will be the same. This sign tells us what those signs will be, which that means both of them will be negative. All right. So we know we're going to do x times x. Now we're looking at 35. What two numbers times themselves to give you 35, but add together to give you 12. And we see right here 7 and 5. So negative 7 and negative 5 will give you negative 12 when you add them together, but positive 35 when you multiply them together. All right. Same thing going on here. We have r squared minus r minus 42. Let me do this. All right. So looking at our back sign, that means our signs are going to be different. And then the front sign tells us that the greater of the two will take on the sign. So these numbers, since they're going to be different signs, are going to subtract from each other to give us 1, but multiply together to give us 42. And that would be 7 and 6. 7 times 6 will do that for us. All right. And so once again, this front sign lets us know that the greater of the two should take on that sign. So that's why 7 is negative. So you have positive 6 times negative 7. Multiplying those two together gives you negative 42, but adding them together will give you a negative 1 that will help us out in the middle. Any questions? All right. So looking at this next one. All right. So remember, you always want to start with what you know has to happen. All right. So this back sign is positive. That means our signs are supposed to be the same. And then this front sign tells us to use the positive sign. So we know what has to happen is that both of our signs are supposed to be positive. Also, since I have a squared here, a times a is the only way I can get a squared. All right. So now we're looking at 10. We need our factors of 10, two numbers that will multiply together to give us 10, but they have to add together to give us this 2a in the middle. So you're talking about 1 times 10 and 2 times 5 are our only ways to get 10. And neither one of those will add together to give us 2. So whenever a situation like that comes into play, I mentioned before, whenever you cannot factor anything, the answer is prime. All right. Questions on that last one? So there's no way for you to factor that down into 2 sets of binomials. All right. So next one. X to the 4th plus 6x squared plus 8. So once again, you want to start off with what you know has to happen. So we're looking at our signs. And they're supposed to be the same. And both of them should be positive. Looking at this first term, x to the 4th, that's going to be x squared times x squared. That'll give me x to the 4th. Also, to help me get x squared in the middle. Then I need my factors of 8. That will add together to give me 6. And that's 2 and 4. All right, questions. All right. So here we have another one. All right. So we have x squared minus 7x y plus 6y squared. Just like before, we're going to look at the back sign. Back side tells us same. Front sign says use. So we're going to use minus sign in both cases. We have x squared in the front. So that's x times x. Then factors of 6 that will add together give me 7. 1 and 6. And also, don't forget we have y right here. So that has to be included. So we're looking at 1y and 6y. All right. Questions. All right, so here, 40 minus 13t plus t squared. Normally we have our expression written in descending order in terms of their exponents. So I just rearranged the terms right here. T squared minus 13t plus 40. And do that just to help you stay in a certain form, certain flow. It's easier to factor this way because that's how we've been flowing. Descending order according to your variables exponents. Once you've done that, rearrange your terms. Always make sure that whatever's positive originally stays positive, whatever's negative stays negative. So t squared is positive, 13t is negative, 40 is positive. So that's still the case here. And then you do your factorization. Sign should be the same because it's positive. Both these signs should be negative. Then your factors of 40 that will add together to give you 13. So 8 and 5. That's what we have right here. All right. Next one. 3m squared minus 24m minus 60. So you notice what I have here in the red first. We talked about that last class when we want to make sure we factor out the GCF first, if there is one. And so that's what I did here. Pulled out a 3 from each one of these terms. And that leaves me with m squared minus 8m minus 20. And then once you have your trinomial, then you go ahead and lean on what we, your trinomial simplified as much as possible. Then you lean on what we did in the previous examples. Back sign is subtraction. So that means our signs will be different. So we want the factors of 20 that will subtract from each other and give us 8. And that's going to be 2 times 10. And since we have this minus sign right here, that means the 10 needs to take on the minus sign. The greater number takes on this symbol right here. All right. Questions. All All right, next one. 2x to the fourth minus 26x cubed plus 84x squared. Once again, we're going to factor out the GCF. So we pull 2x squared to the outside, and we're left with x squared minus 13x plus 42. And then follow the same sign rules. That's good enough. Back sign is positive, so that means both of them should be the same. And then this sign out here lets us know to use negative for both. Factors of 42 add together to give me 13, 7 and 6. Notice 2x squared is still a part of your factorization, so make sure you don't lose that. Sometimes people will pull the GCF out, and then they forget to keep it as a part of the factorization. So make sure you keep that as a part of your final answer. All right. Questions. All right. So same thing. Still factoring trinomials, but this time we having a number out front. So remember, you guys' section was 14. I think this would be 14.4. No, it's 14.3. 14.3. All right, let me erase some of this stuff. All right, so we have 2x squared plus 13x plus 6. Like I said, nothing changes as far as the signs are concerned. That will hold true no matter what trinomial you're dealing with. Your back sign is positive. That means both your signs should be the same. Front sign let you know which sign to use. So we have positive, positive as far as our options are concerned. Now, because we have a 2 in front of our x squared, we can't just write x and x. We have to consider the factors of 2. And so that's going to be 2x and 1x. That's how I will get 2x squared. We don't have any other options there, but 2x and 1x. Now, when it comes to the 6, know we want to get 13 in the middle. And this method is called factoring by trial and error. And the reason why I teach this one, make sure that we use this one, is because a lot of times using factoring by trial and error, the more you do it, the less it becomes trial and error, and you get to learn, the ins and outs of factoring, and you become better at factoring. So let's say if we decided to do, let's go 3 and 2, right? And so what you have to do here is actually factor out the check. You know that 2x times x will give you x squared, and 3 times 2 will give you 6. That's why you chose them. But the goal is to get 13x in the middle. So if you were to FOIL these out, you get 2x squared and 2 from that. Then 2x times x will give you 4x. 3x times 3, 3 times x will give you 3x. And then, of course, we said we'll get our 6 in the back. Now, notice 4x plus 3x, though, is 7x, which is not what we want. We want 13x. So we know there's something that we need to change in order to get that 13x in the middle. So what I decided to do here in this one was to, instead of using 3 and 2, I used 1 and 6. Because remember, I'm trying to get to 12. I'm trying to get to 13. The quickest way to get to 13 is by doing 2 times 6. So like I said, certain things like that, will come to your mind the more and more you do that, and the more and more you use factoring by trial and error. So 2x times x will give me 2x squared. 2x times 6 will give me 12x. 1 times x will give me 1x. And then adding those together will give me 13x, which is what I needed in the middle. So this would actually be the answer, 2x plus 1, x plus 6. And so if you want to see the whole factorization, that's it right there. Or the whole falling out. 2x times x give me 2x squared. Then I get 12x plus x in the middle, 6 on the end. Adding the middle terms, and I get my 13x. Remember that any factorization you do can always be checked to see if you get the original expression by multiplying it back. So once again, we tried one combination that didn't work originally, and then we come back and try another one by switching out some of the factors. All right. Questions before we try another one? All right. This is another plus and plus, but it's okay. All right, so here we're looking at 5x squared plus 7x plus 2. Once again, signs are going to be the same and positive because it's plus and plus. Now we need to look at our factors of 5 and our factors of 2. Oh, wrong button. Factors of 5 is 1 times 5. Factors of 2, 1 times 2. So those are our only options. We just need to put them in the right order. I'll go red. So 5x times x will give me 5x squared. And keep in mind, I'm trying to get to 7. So if I were to put a 2 here and 1 here, when I do my foiling, this would be 5 times 2, which is 10. And that's already greater than the 7 in the middle. So that combination I know I don't want to use. So what I would do is put a 2 here and 1 here. And so foiling this out, 5x times x will give me 5x squared. 5x times 1 is 5x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 1 is 2. And you know, 5x plus 2x in the middle will give me my 7x that we were looking for. So this is the correct factorization. All right, questions. So make sure, you know, we got a few more to do and everything, trying it out, but make sure you try the stuff out at home. And if you have questions, can't figure out how to factor out certain ones, always feel free to bring them to class or email me. We can talk about them. Make sure you have an understanding of what can be factored, what can't, and all that good stuff. All right, so here we have 2x squared plus 13x minus 7. Minus sign in the back, that means our sign should be different. All right. So now we have our factors of 2 that we have to consider. So that's 1 times 2, so 1x and 2x. Then looking at our factors of 7, it's just 1 times 7. So once again, it's all about putting them in the right spot. Notice we're trying to get 13 here. So what I would do is put 1 here and 7 here, because I know 2 is going to multiply to this, and that'll put me at 14. Remember, I'm trying to get to 13, so put me at 14, and I see I'm going to subtract 1. All right. So now we have to be careful here, Because when you go and and this is why it's important that you check when you go do your factorization or falling out. If I were to fall out these, I get 2x squared minus 14. Pull this out, x minus 7. So now then when I add my two terms together, I get negative 13 in the middle, but I wanted positive 13. If ever that's the case, then all you would do is just switch your signs. I have positive here, negative here, and notice the answer right here is 2x minus 1, 2x plus 1. And so just switching your signs will give you the positive 13 that you need. So you have everything right except for that sign initially, and all you have to do is switch your signs in your parentheses, and that'll give you the sign that you need. All right, questions before we look at another one. All right, erase this stuff. All right. So we have 8x squared minus 22x plus 5. And I got a doorbell. Hopefully there's nobody to go in the middle class. Sorry about that. Can't handle that. I'm in the middle of class. So our signs are going to be the same because we have this plus sign right here. All right, and then let's just know that our signs are going to be both be minus. All right, then our factors of 5, just 1 times 5. Don't have a choice there. 1 and 5 is all we got. And then we're looking at our factors of 8. So we have 1 times 8 and 2 times 4 that we will be using. All right. And remember, we need to get 22 in the middle. So the easiest way to get to there is that we use 4 and 2. So 4x times 2x will give me 8x squared. And then also 8 times, not 8, but 4 times 5 will give me that 20. Remember, we're trying to get to 22. So the quickest way or the easiest way to do 4 times 5 is 20. And then 1 times 2 is 2. And when we fall out, we see we get that right here, which is that 22 in the middle. So that's our factorization. Down here, somebody had just asked, well, would such and such work? And I was showing them why it didn't. So we don't need to go through that, but this is our answer right here. All right. Questions. So if you haven't dealt with factoring in a while, or maybe even this is your first time, then really it's all about getting the practice in, trying it out, seeing what scenarios you come across, see what difficulties you may have, or it might just be easy to you. You can roll on to the next thing. But, you know, it will come with practice. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. So it's really about getting in there and trying it out. And then, like I said, whatever problems you get stuck on or have a problem or issue with, make sure you either bring them to class or shoot me that email so we can talk about how you would factor them out. Nope, that's for next class. Hold on, perfect square trinomials. That's next class. Well, this one, perfect square trinomials, they mention them and they have a formula for them, but I really don't emphasize the formula because you guys are going to have some factorizations in which formulas are necessary. So in other words, if I had x squared plus 12x plus 36, it's a perfect square trinomial because it ends up being x plus 6 and x plus 6. And then x plus 6 times x plus 6 can be rewritten as x plus 6 squared. But if you just lean on what we talked about already, so what you would do is recognize that both your signs are supposed to be the same and they're both supposed to be positive. So be plus and plus. And then x times x. And then looking at your factors of 36 that will add together to give you 12 will be 6 and 6. And so, there, like I said, there's a formula that talks about it, but we really don't necessarily need it if you just lean on what we talked about already. All right. But like I said, in the next section we talk about there will be formulas that you will need. So I'll focus on that formula or those formulas versus adding an extra one to you guys if you don't need it. All right. Questions. All right. So that's it for trinomials, factor trinomials. Next class we'll look at what difference of squares and difference of cubes and sum of cubes and that stuff like that, and keep on rolling. So we almost finished, guys. Almost finished. Make sure you're keeping up with your work in Connect Math, and if you have any questions outside, inside of Connect Math, make sure you let me know so we can knock this stuff out. All right. Anything else before we close out today? All right. Well, you guys have a good one. Be safe, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Oh, why's my chat not popping up? Oh, there you go. Yeah, it did go by fast. All right. You guys have a good one. Take care.